Good morning. I would like to cordially welcome you gathered at Lublin Castle, both remotely in front of the computers, of your computer screens, and here in front of the painting of the Union of Lublin you can see just behind me. The historical object that bears testimony of the idea of the Union of Lublin was made by Polish prominent painter Jan Matejki in 1869 to commemorate the 300th anniversaries of forming the Union. For this painting, Matejki collected the Legion of Honor, the highest French decoration in Paris. It happened in 1870, yes. 1870, sorry. Well, we celebrate the 1st of July because exactly here in Lublin Castle, the Act of Union was adopted and the Union was sworn. Our meeting is dedicated to the European Heritage Label and is entitled, We Celebrate the European Heritage Label, the Union of Lublin Site. It goes together with a project meeting of the EHL N. It means the network of historic sites and cities from 19 European partners. So we will devote the first part of our event to celebrating the European Heritage Label, and the second part for our project partner meeting. I would like to thank you, the management of the museum, for making the rooms of the castle available for our meeting. As you know, the city of Lublin received the label as a place of the signature of the Union of Lublin, a unique symbol of peaceful and democratic integration of two religiously, ethnically different countries. These ideas have their material representation in the historical sites preserved in Lublin's cityscape that witnessed the creation of the Union. I mean the Holy Trinity Chapel just close to us. At the Lublin Castle, the St. Stanislaus Bishop at Martyr Church with the Dominican monastery, and the Union of Lublin Monument. Our group includes Mr. Artur Szymczyk, Deputy Mayor of the City of Lublin, representing the City of Lublin, then the Dominican Prior Krzysztof Modras, and Mr. Marcin Gapski, representing the National Museum on Lublin Castle, who will say a few words of welcome in a minute. In order to promote the idea of European Heritage Label, we have signed in Lublin special agreement between the municipality, monastery, and the castle. It was signed, I think, 5 years ago. which specifies the responsibilities of the individual signatories. Well, now I would like to introduce you the chairperson of our meeting, Anna Krzyżanowska-Orlik. But before I give her the floor, I want to ask Mr. Artur Szymczyk, Deputy Mayor of Lublin, to say a few words of welcome. Mr. President, Mr. Mayor.
Dzień dobry Państwu. W imieniu Pana Prezydenta Krzysztofa Żuka chciałem bardzo serdecznie Państwa powitać na święcie kolejnej rocznicy zawarcia Unii Lubelskiej. Jest to idealny czas, miejsce do świętowania tej uroczystości, ale też i do potwierdzenia znaku dziedzictwa europejskiego, który Lublin otrzymało dla tych miejsc, obiektów, o których Pan Trzewik wspomniał przed chwilą. Ja dziękuję za zorganizowanie tego spotkania, za to, że tutaj gościmy szanownego Pana profesora. Bardzo serdecznie witam w mieście Lublinie i jest mi niezmiernie miło, że Pan do nas zawitał osobiście, a nie tylko w formie online, bo to jest dla nas bardzo ważne. Witam wszystkich uczestników w formie online. Mam nadzieję, że to jest ostatnie świętowanie w takiej hybrydowej formie. No jednak wydaje mi się, że dla takich świętowania jest istotny osobisty kontakt. I z tego miejsca chciałem bardzo serdecznie zaprosić na kolejne rocznice do miasta Lublina osobiście. Szczególnie wielkie podziękowania też chciałem z tego miejsca złożyć dyrekcji muzeum, które nas gości w dniu dzisiejszym. Muzeum jest po generalnym remoncie, przebudowie, można nawet powiedzieć, więc tym bardziej mamy się czym pochwalić, więc serdecznie tutaj w imieniu włodarza, Pana Prezydenta Krzysztofa Żuka, pozwalam sobie zaprosić do miasta Lublina, które zmienia się, przekształca się i możemy się, i nie zapominamy w mieście Lublinie o tym naszym dziedzictwie i za to wszystkim Państwu bardzo dziękuję, którzy wspierają tę inicjatywę. Jeszcze raz witam serdecznie Państwa na tym spotkaniu. Zapraszam do smakowania odwiedzania miasta Lublina. Dziękuję bardzo.
See you Lublin. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, good morning again, everybody. I'm very happy, I'm very honored to be here. I'm very honored to moderate the conference today, during which we will talk about European heritage label, its values, its importance for the development of the whole continent of Europe. We'll talk about the values which are principles of freedom, democracy, respect for human rights, cultural and linguistic diversity and tolerance. These values have been very important for Europe, and particularly today, they are also of great importance. Therefore, I would like to invite a few persons who are connected with European heritage, I may say, who will make introductory speeches of this conference. And first of all, I would like to invite the prior of the Dominican monastery in Lublin, Krzysztof Modros. The floor is yours.
Good morning. I represent the Saint Stanisław Bishop at Martyr Church and the Dominican Monastery. I would like to present our site in the comparison with other sites signed with the European Heritage Label. As for the first site, the Holy Chapel, Trinity Chapel, it is the witness of the preparation of the Union and the formal act. We know that in the courtyard of the Royal Castle, the debates on the shape of the Union of Lublin were held. Finally, on the 1st of July, the act of the Union was made. In the chapel, there is an inscription. This is a special testimony of this Unia facta est cum ducatus Lituaniae. So we can say that the Holy Trinity Chapel is the historical sign, express the historical aspect of the Union. As for the second witness of the Union of Lublin, the monument in the Lithuanian square, there are two allegoric figures joining their hands together, Poland and Lithuania. I can say that this is the external sign of the Union. These figures represents two nations, Poland and Lithuania, but today we can say that this is the sign of the European Union, the Commonwealth of many nations, a democratic integration of very different countries, nations, many ethnic and religious groups. As for our site, the Dominican Church, it represents the spiritual dimension of the Union. We know that after the formal act of the Union in the castle of Lublin, they came with the king to our church. There was a Thanksgiving celebration in the presence of the king. After that, they sang the hymn Te Deum. They prayed together, and the bishop blessed the people in the name of God. I found this spiritual dimension also in the text of the Union. We can see that the act starts with the words, "In the name Lord, name Amen." After that, in the middle, it is said that the act happened by the grace of the beloved God and was made to the eternal glory of the only one God in the Holy Trinity. And at the end of the act, there is a solemn promise invoking God that everything that is written will be fulfilled in the future forever. I think that these words are very important for this dimension of the Union of Lublin. This spiritual aspect of the Union is also present in the painting of Matejko. You can see here the crucifix stored today in our monastery, and this crucifix became a symbol of the Union. There is also a second detail on the painting of Matejko. The act of the Union is made on the gospel. We can see this gospel on the painting. In conclusion, the three monuments in Lublin represent three dimensions of the Union. The Lublin Castle, the historical dimension, the Union monument in the Lithuanian square is the external symbol of the unity. Also today for the Europe, we can say also for the world today, and the Dominican Church represents the spiritual aspect of the Union. I think that because of this, in Lublin we have joined together all these three aspects by uniting three material witnesses in the one European heritage label. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the important part of the prayer speech is remembering that the cultural heritage refers to tangible and intangible assets, yes? And spiritual dimension is very important, and unfortunately, sometimes we do forget about it. So thank you again. And now I would like to ask Mr. Marcin Gapski, who represents the National Museum in Lublin here, and our host.
Thank you very much. Dzień dobry. Good morning. I would like to welcome all these dear guests participating in our meeting. As residents of Lublin, we have a special privilege, but also a duty to recall the glorious events of the year 1569. Thanks to the modern technologies, space has no longer been an obstacle for such meetings. I'm very happy that the Royal Castle in Lublin which is the seat of a national museum, in some way virtual, can once again be a place of lectures, discussions, and friendly chats about Lublin Union. Thanking the organizers, I wish you a successful meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, right now we'll have a short film which shows why and how the Lublin was awarded with the European Heritage Label Site for the Union of Lublin, and remembering that the Union of Lublin was a milestone in the European history of integration, and particularly peaceful integration. Okay, can we have a video, please?
Lublin is the biggest city in eastern part of Poland, just on the edge of European Union border with Ukraine and Belarus. On 1st of July 1569, there was a signing of Lublin Union, which first time in Europe history, union two different countries without war in one state. It was Kingdom of Poland and Grand Duchy of Lithuania, making a commonwealth of both nations. It was signed in Lublin Castle, just in Holy Trinity Chapel, and there was during the meeting of Polish and Lithuanian parliaments.
This chapel is one of the most important, beautiful and precious monuments of a medieval art, not only in Poland, but in the whole Europe. It's very important for history of all Europe, because in this Gothic architecture, typical for the Western art, you can find Byzantine Ruthenian paintings, typical for the East. It's a place where two great cultural traditions of the Latinate West and the Byzantine East meet and mingle. Is an example of mutual religious tolerance and coexistence to different cultures and denominations, because it was always Roman Catholic Church, and the frescoes are typical for Orthodox temple. This combination is very original and unique.
The most important fact was exactly the same that European Union having today. It was the openness for different religions, different nations, and there was a strong commitment with the idea that the peaceful cooperation is much more better than war and conflicts. The city of Lublin was nominated, but with the special attention of three places in our city. It is the Lublin Castle and especially Holy Trinity Chapel when the union was signed. It's a Dominican church and monastery when was the mass just after the signing of union. And it is monument which is located on the Lithuanian square just in the city center, which is the memory of the Union of Lublin.
I think that history of Lublin is an example of tolerance between people of different nationalities and denominations, and nowadays it's very important because many people, many Catholics and representatives of Orthodox Church, Islam, Judaism were arrived in Lublin and they lived here without wars.
May I invite right now Mr. Gerald Wagenhofer from Imperial Palace Hofburg, Vienna, who is representing the EHL project lead partner, who will join us virtually. For a few words, Gerald, the floor is yours. Good morning. Okay, I think we have some problems, technical problems. Okay, Gerald, we can't hear you. Oh, no, still nothing, unfortunately. Can we just try to fix the problem? Can you just also say something? Maybe this, no. Still, unfortunately, not. It's nice to see you, though. Okay. Okay, there's a problem with your microphone, so you should turn it on.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Now it works.
There is a second button. Sorry for that. Yeah, also warm welcome from my side. Sorry for the technical issues we have on my side. Yeah, on the behalf of the Burghauptmann, Reinhold Saal, he is the owner representative of the Imperial Palace Vienna. I am sending his greetings to you and wish you a good conference today. We, as the Imperial Palace, together with other sites, we was in touch with the Commission about the network of EHL sites, and due to the fact that these sites and also the label is not so represented as it should be, we was granted to run the network of the EHL sites, the EHL N, for instance, together with the Union of Lublin. And yeah, this project is now in its prolongation, so we are working on our task still further. Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not able to be there in Lublin today, but I'm sure we will have a good and great meeting today, and all the best for today. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what Gerald mentioned is the significance, but also the knowledge about the European heritage label, and it is very important to disseminate this knowledge, to popularize this knowledge, and to let all the people know how important it is and where actually these sites exist. And right now I have a pleasure to commence the ceremony of honoring Professor Krzysztof Pietkiewicz. So I would like to invite the mayor and Mr. Professor here. And the professor will be honored for popularizing and disseminating the knowledge of the Polish-Lithuanian history, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, particularly the Union of Lublin and the city of Lublin itself, of course.
Jeszcze raz dzień dobry. Proszę Państwa, chciałem w imieniu pana prezydenta Krzysztofa Żuka bardzo serdecznie podziękować panu profesorowi i na jego ręce przekazać medal Unii Lubelskiej. Pozwólcie Państwo, że odczytam. W uznaniu za znaczące osiągnięcia dydaktyczno-naukowe w dziedzinie historii z podziękowaniem za cenny wkład w upowszechnianie wiedzy o dziedzictwie Unii Lubelskiej oraz promocji miasta Lublina w kraju i za granicą, profesor dr habilitowany Krzysztof Pietkiewicz otrzymuje medal Unii Lubelskiej. Podpisał prezydent miasta Lublina dr Krzysztof Żuk. Lublin, lipiec 2018. Jeszcze raz bardzo serdecznie gratuluję.
Krzysztof Żuk, Mayor of Lublin. Thank you.
Jeszcze raz bardzo gratuluję i naprawdę jestem wzruszony i zaszczycony, że mogłem panu profesorowi
I'm really honored. I'm really touched that I have been able. I have the honor to award you with this medal. Ladies and gentlemen, very briefly, when working for a couple of dozens of years on the history of Polish-Lithuanian relations, I have seen that the Union of Lublin was a major step towards bringing two states together as a Commonwealth of cooperation and security, despite some differences between our nations, which always happens. The Grand Duchy of Lithuania and the Polish Crown, which was the bigger of the partners. Lithuania is much smaller. This is to be kept in mind. This union was never officially broken. For several hundred years, the union flourished, and history is valuable only when it helps us understand the presence. And for me, Lublin is a place that cherishes this tradition, that continues the tradition of international cooperation. Lublin is a link between cultures, nations and traditions, so I wish to thank cordially to Mr. Mayor, Krzysztof Żuk, and the residents of Lublin for your tradition, for your heritage, and for cherishing it. Thank you.
I may only say that the professor does not represent the university in Lublin. He does represent the university in Poznań, the University of Adam Mickiewicz in Poznań. So this is also very important. Okay, right now we'll have the second video, which shows how the Congress of the two unions, which was organized as a part of the celebration related to the 450th anniversary of the Union of Lublin. And this is the movie that shows how it was organized, what events were planned. So can we have a video, please?
Mamy wyjątkową okazję gościć w Lublinie wybitnych historyków zajmujących się historią Unii Polsko-Litewskiej, nie tylko Unii Lubelskiej, ale w ogóle związków między Polską a Litwą. Między innymi tacy znakomici badacze jak profesor Robert Frost z Aberdeen, jak pani profesor Kiałpiene z Wilna, pan profesor Ryszard Szczygieł, nasz lubelski wybitny historyk, jak również historycy z Białorusi, Ukrainy i z innych ośrodków polskich niż Lublin zajmujący się historią Unii Polsko-Litewskiej. Dyskutujemy o tym, jaką wartością dzisiaj jest Unia Lubelska dla nas w Lublinie, ale też szerzej dla Polski, szerzej dla Europy Środkowej, Wschodniej i w ogóle dla Europy.
Lubelska Unia Polsko-Litewska to nie był chyba model dla Unii Europejskiej, ale to nie znaczy, że nie ma podobieństw. Liberum veto jeszcze żyje. Gdzie? W Radzie Ministrów Unii Europejskiej. Bo właśnie każde państwo suwerenne chce, żeby mógł powiedzieć nie. Nie akceptujemy tego. Więc musimy dalej dyskutować. I tak właśnie była zasada na Sejmie Polsko-Litewskiej jednomyślności, żeby my musimy dyskutować, dopóki jest konsensus, zgoda. Więc w pewnym sensie są paralele.
O tym, że jest to wartość istotna z punktu widzenia europejskiego, najlepiej świadczy Znak Dziedzictwa Europejskiego przyznany Lublinowi jako miejscu Unii Lubelskiej w 2015 roku przez Komisję Europejską. Tym znakiem nagrodzona została Unia Lubelska jako wartość niematerialna, reprezentowana w przestrzeni miasta przez 3 zabytki, 3 miejsca, które z tradycją i z samym zawarciem Unii Lubelskiej są związane. Kaplica Trójcy Świętej na Zamku Lubelskim, Bazylika Ojców Dominikanów wraz z klasztorem, obiekt związany z tradycją Unii Lubelskiej od momentu jej zawarcia, a trzeci, nie mniej istotny, pomnik Unii Lubelskiej na Placu Litewskim. Ten obiekt jest dzisiaj jednym z najważniejszych pomników, jakie mamy w Lublinie, a być może najważniejszy.
Lublin siłą rzeczy jest centrum uwagi. To tutaj ta Unia była zawarta, poprzedzona sporami, dużymi emocjami. 450-lecie zawarcia Unii Lubelskiej pozwala znakomicie nasze miasto promować przez jego fascynującą zresztą historię. Ale to, że tutaj elity 2 narodów, 2 państw gromadziły się i debatowały o przyszłości, niewątpliwie jest powodem do satysfakcji.
Okay, thank you. European heritage is something that we all Europeans share. This is something that is the foundation for today's integrity of Europe. And it is very important to remember the history of Europe and also know how to use it for the future. Therefore, this is what was mentioned before. It is very important to conduct many activities. This is educational activities, promotional activities, and it does refer also to EHL sites. Therefore, the city of Lublin, within the project, and also, of course, other partners, initiated the idea to organize a photo competition that would show all the sites and try to disseminate the knowledge about the sites. And right now I would like to invite here Ms. Katarzyna Czerlunczakiewicz from the Municipal Office for Historic Preservation, who will tell us more about these promotional activities organized as a part of the project. The floor is yours, Kasia.
Thank you very much. I would like to say hello to everybody and I'd like to tell you a few words about the photo competition, European Heritage Label Europe Starts Here, which was taken under the, as Anna mentioned, European Heritage Label Network project. And it was, the idea comes from the city of Lublin as one of the partners, and we discussed this, mentioned the idea during projects and with other partners, and decided to organize as one of the promotional activities to show the European Heritage Label sites, the represented values, and all events which are taken in the sites to promote the heritage, the common ideas, and what is very important, represented values like such as democracy, tolerance, respect for human rights, and so on. And the idea was to create two age categories, under 30 and above 30 years old, and the competition was open to public, so for professional photographers and also for people who just treat it as a passion, yes, and it had a very, very huge impact, and we received about 200 submissions in both age categories, and the first step was jury selection. Jury pre-selected 20 photos in both categories, and then the idea was to show them, present on the project's website to public voting. Because the idea was to show the label, the competition to the wide audience, and to encourage people to not only to take part in the competition, but also to see the places. And after this process, the works were presented also on the website, and
so the question is, are they still available at the website? And if anybody wants to see them?
Yes, in a gallery. And what I wanted to say, the winners were presented on the 9th of May, so the Day of Europe. Also, it's connected with the idea of promoting the common Europe, common heritage, and our common values. So. We're very impressed with the amount of works and the variety of topics which were shown on the pictures. They showed, as I mentioned before, the sites, events, so the level of these places, and I think that we will have a chance to see the gallery, and we will present the winner works. So,
and we also will have some of the winners with us here today, and others will join us virtually. So We do hope that they will also say a few words why, for example, they decided to take part in a competition.
Yes, exactly. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Katarzyna. Of course, to organize the photo competition, it is necessary to have a jury that will evaluate the photographs. So right now we'll join, I think, virtually the representatives of the jury who will tell how the works were done and how they agreed on the final choice. So I would like to invite Ms., and I'm very sorry maybe for mispronouncing the name, Ms. Snežka Mihajlović, the director of Europa Nostra, who will tell us, who will present the voice of the jury. Can we join Ms. Snežka online? Okay, I think we have some technical problems, but can we, okay, Ms. Snežka is probably unavailable right now, but we'll try to connect somehow later. And we also, in the agenda, we have Ms. Diana Ciszewska-Tolak, represents the city of Lublin, and also who has become the chairman of the jury. So, is it possible to have voices from somebody? Okay, sorry, I just have to consult our technical team, so I know what the situation is right now. Are we waiting for somebody or? Okay, we have troubles in connecting. Okay, so we just, unfortunately, due to technical reasons, we cannot connect. And maybe we'll manage to do it later. And we just have a short film right now instead. Thank you for all the films. I may only say that people do not fail, but technology does. So we still have a problem with connecting. But instead of the representative of the jury, we will ask for a few comments. Gerald, who is available online, who will make a few comments on how he perceived the idea, the competition, the quality of work. So Gerald, again, the floor is yours.
Okay, I tried to say something about that. The idea is, I think it's already was born before we submitted the application for the EHL network. So we include that already in the application, and when we was then selected, we discussed internally how we organize that, and Lublin said as the giver of the idea, they will be responsible for organizing it. We of course said yes, it's always good if someone has an idea and is then willing to do it, so we agreed on that. So the rules and the conditions to participate were made by the partner City of Lublin. And from our side, we organized the technical background with the website and the public voting, which was then needed as well. In the discussion who should be in the jury, we said we will have a broad spectrum or target groups, let me call that way. I see there is a new one in the meeting. But we said we would like to have someone from the European level to make sure that we show the support we have from their side. So we include someone from the panel. We include Europa Nostra, which is of course one of the most well-known organizations in cultural heritage in Europe. We also included jury members from the European, the House of the European History, that's the right way to say it. And also we have we had of course a professional photographer in, because we need some professional support as well. And we also had 2 representatives of the sites which are part of the jury. That was the chairwoman, Jana Dziedzictwa, and also the Burghauptmann was also part of the jury. They had several meetings to identify the 20 pictures, and after that we opened the chance or the website to give the possibility for a public voting. And after this we had some winners, and we are now here to celebrate and thank you them for participating. And I'm quite also happy about the results, as Katarzyna said, because above 200 submissions in the short time of, I would say, approximately 2 months is quite an pretty result. So I'm very appreciate that result. I think that was a few words, and I think maybe now I had the chance to hand over to Audrey, because she's in the call now.
Yes, thank you very much. I think an important part of the competition was public voting. So it was
Definitely.
As I understand, it was not only jury that decided, yes, and with
first was the jury. They selected the available photos, and also checked, of course, if they are in line with our conditions, because all the pictures has to do with the sites and the value, and should be a personal story from the submitter. And if that's not was not available, then of course we have to say we cannot award them. So this was the previous task of the jury, and then the public voting was only on the pictures. They are really was fitting or fitting to the conditions we had defined before.
So we must say that the jury was responsible for the sort of a pre-selection of the photos. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Right now, I think we have a possibility to connect with the assistant of Ms. Snežka Mihajlović, who represents Europa Nostra. Ms., as I remember, Hogan, yes?
Hi, yes,
okay,
hello.
Great, sorry.
I'm very sorry. Snežka is a little bit delayed, but she will connect in just a moment, if it's okay to wait, or unless...
Yes, I think we can wait a few moments, but if you could make some comments maybe from your side on how the jury worked.
Oh, she's connecting now. I'm just on the phone with her. Okay.
Yes, so I think we'll switch to Ms. Mihajlović, who was a member of the jury, who will just tell us what her experiences were from this work and how the jury worked and why the quality maybe about the photographs, why they decided for some choices. Do we have a connection or?
She's connecting right now. I was just on the phone with her, so sorry about I think it started a little bit early, but yeah, it was really a nice experience for Europe and Austria. Also, I'm working on the European Heritage Awards, and I think that it was a really great experience for us to be able to also create this very tangible link with the awards.
Do you think, for example, that the response to the competition, was it good or because it was during pandemic? So like, you know, we have to remember that there were restrictions and different times generally. So what do you think? So the response was good?
Yeah, from our side, I think it was, obviously it's the first year of anything, and with our experience of working with the awards as well, of course, it can always be challenging. We also saw that there was a change in our applications as well, so I think that, of course, it will affect, for instance, the number of the entries, and when it's the first year of something as well, I think that it... it's a learning experience. So I'm sure that next year there will be an even greater number of applications, and we hope so.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that can I have an answer from the technical team? Are we right now able to connect with Ms. Mihailovic, or? Because I think I saw her joining. Okay, yes, okay, great, thank you. So the floor is yours. So can we ask for a few comments?
Good morning to you all from Brussels, dear colleagues and friends. Welcome to everybody who have joined us for this wonderful event in this wonderful setting to celebrate the very first winners of the international photo competition entitled European Heritage Label, Europe Starts Here. It was my great honor to act as a member of the jury, taking on the challenging but truly enjoyable task of shortlisting and selecting the winners of this inspiring competition. On behalf of all jury members, let me say that we were really impressed with the quality of the photographs submitted and with the creative ways that each of the entrants chose to represent the European heritage label sites and the values attached to them. And each of these sites is an important marker of a place of culture and remembrance that has been significant for the development of our sense of belonging to a wider European family. So the European Heritage Label sites symbolize and tell the story of the ideals which are central to our shared European values and history. And we were so pleased, therefore, to see these values communicated with such beauty, nuance, and skill by each of the entrants. In a category for people who are over 30 years old, 2 impressive photographs of natural heritage in dialogue with cultural heritage were selected by both the jury and by the public. And as it happens, they are both from one same country, Portugal, the country that is located in the southwest of Europe and which has just completed its 6 months rotating presidency of the European Union. The first one is entitled Stormy Days at Sagres Promontory, and it was taken by Vanda Rita. It depicts the European Heritage Label site of the Sagres Promontory in Portugal. It was selected by the jury as it sends a clear message of the power of nature and in this indisputable link with our built and cultural heritage, while at the same time raising awareness of the threats to cultural heritage caused by climate change and the related rising sea levels. The other picture is entitled Camelinos Volcanic Complex, and it was taken by Paulo Martins. It was chosen by the public as their choice, and it depicts the underwater cultural heritage of the Azores Islands in Portugal, a collection of shipwrecks that are silent witnesses of Europe's historical links with the rest of the world. And this expansive shot, looking out to the sea, is suggestive of this open and outward-looking perspective on the world. The category for participants who are up to 30 years old also has a common theme in focusing on the young people and the enjoyment they have with our heritage. And like in the previous category, the winners come from the same country, Poland, a country which is located in the northeast of Europe and which is proudly hosting today's online ceremony. It's probably not surprising that the jury chose New Life at the Historical Heart, picture taken by Jan Rusek, depicting the Gdańsk shipyard in Poland as their top choice. At a time when the pandemic has us dreaming of the reopening of our favorite heritage locations, this picture is a great representation of how heritage brings people together and really captures the atmosphere of a wonderful summer evening surrounded by heritage and with our friends. The public chose another picture, the picture entitled The Postcard from Lublin, and it was taken by Natalia Ogłoszka. This picture depicts the European heritage label sites linked to the Union of Lublin. And this joyful picture again shows people enjoying heritage on a sunny day and is in the spirit of the peaceful and meaningful union that these sites represent. To end, on behalf of the entire jury, I congratulate the winner and I thank all those who have submitted an entry to our photo competition. You have all shown in a vibrant and creative way how important heritage is to us all. Next year, we will be so pleased to see an even greater spread of entries from across Europe, therefore showing the greater interconnectivity of these places and the people who care for them. I hope now that the first edition has so successfully been completed, that the next year, each of the European heritage label sites will be even more motivated to encourage their citizens and communities to enter this competition. So these are my remarks accompanied by my greetings from Brussels. And once again, together with Europa Nostra, we have been very grateful and that we could participate in this very exciting European photo competition. And I thank all the organizers for what they have done to make it possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for being a part of the jury. I think that you really enjoyed that, and I do hope that. Okay, so right now, unfortunately, Diana Ciszewska-Tolak cannot be here with us personally. I'm sure she's spiritually with us, but due to her condition, Diana is pregnant, as you might know. She was not able to come here. So right now we are going to the, I would say, the nicest part of the conferences, which is the winners awarding ceremony. And we have our winners, one of them here with us, and 3 will join us or have already joined us virtually. So I will invite Mr. Mayor, who will be granting the prizes to our winners. And we will see the photographs in the background. Just to remind you, as Katarzyna mentioned, there were 2 age categories, above 30 and below 30. And we generally have 4 winners, 2 main winners. And here with us, we have in the first category, till 30, Ms. Natalia Ogłoszka from Poland. And she is here with us today. And she is receiving the award for the photography, the postcard from Lublin. So we are particularly happy that the photograph with our hometown is a winner. And this photograph, I hope we'll be able to see it in the background soon, represent the young people who gather in the old town. And we can see in the photograph the chapel and the Holy Trinity, the castle and the Holy Trinity chapel, actually. And these are very important places for the Union of Lublin. So, can we, Mr. Mayor?
Congratulations.
This is, as you can see, we have a photograph.
This is for you. Wish you a
yes. And
fruitful and beautiful career.
Can we ask a winner for a comment? A short one, if or a long one. Pani Natalio.
Dzień dobry. Ja ze swojej strony chciałabym bardzo podziękować wszystkim, którzy przyczynili się do przyznania mi tego wyróżnienia. Bardzo dziękuję za docenienie mojej pracy. Chciałabym też powiedzieć, że jest mi bardzo miło i jestem bardzo wdzięczna za to. Reprezentowanie Lublina to dla mnie ogromny zaszczyt.
Representing Lublin is also a very pleasurable and honorable role, so thank you very much.
Okay, we have a second winner, not the second, but a different category, I would say. This is the above 30. This is Paulo Martins from Portugal, who unfortunately isn't here with us, but spiritually, I do remember these words, and I will remember from the prior. I like it a lot. Who is with us? He's the author of the photograph Capellinho's Volcanic Complex. We can see it. And this photograph refers to the underwater heritage of the Azores and the huge number of shipwrecks that are connected, that were referred to transatlantic journeys that were so important, as we may all know, in the history of Europe. Paulo is here with us, yes, and so we are granting, so Mr. Mayor, this is the diploma.
Thank you.
Can you also make a few comments and on the photo competition and why, for example, you have decided to send your photograph?
First of all, good morning to all from Lisbon. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the jury. Thank you to all my friends and unknown new friends that vote on my picture. And it was a pleasure to show the Azores underwater heritage to a large audience, and European audience and world audience, I don't know, because it's on the internet, so it's in the world. It's really, really a pleasure to share this beautiful landscape and this to a wide audience, and encourage the intercultural dialogue that creates a sense of being part of the United Europe. And I think Azores deserves that. It's a beautiful island, and I was really happy with these results. Thank you to the jury, and thank you to all that votes, and good morning to you all in Lublin. And I hope I meet some of the people one day in Lublin. Not this time, but another time, who knows.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Ja chciałem tylko dodać jedno słowo. Gratuluję bardzo serdecznie. Natomiast mam taką informację techniczną, że światłowody są za małej średnicy i ta nagroda nie przejdzie, więc zapraszamy serdecznie do Lublina po odbiór nagrody.
Fiber optic networks will not enable this award to travel to you, so you have to come to Lublin in person.
In other words, you have to come to Lublin. You have no choice. Due to technology.
I will. One day.
There are also 2 jury awards. This is also 2 age categories. Under 30, this is Jan Rusek from Poland again, so we are really happy, for the photograph New Life and the Historical Heart. And the photograph represents the gathering of the young people. And in the background, we can see the cranes of the Gdańsk shipyard. I just want to make a comment. As you probably know, Gdańsk shipyard, a very important place for the history of Poland, yes, for the modern history of Poland, and for the history of whole Europe. And it connects with the ideas of freedom, democracy, which are values which lay in the heart of European integration. So we have also, Mr. Rusek is with us from Gdańsk, yes? Oh, hello, dzień dobry.
Yes, hello everyone, good morning.
Okay, so we also have a diploma.
Bardzo serdecznie gratuluję i myślę, że panu będzie łatwiej odebrać osobiście.
Congratulations, I think it will be easier for you to collect the prize from Lublin.
Can we ask
Congratulations again.
And, like, you know, the history of the photograph, for example.
Yeah, I would like to say a few words, very short only. First of all, I'm grateful and happy, of course. Thank you for the jury and for the organizers of the competition, because it's great, I think. About the photo, I think I wrote the essence of it in its description, but I can say only that it's great, in my opinion, that in such a place like post-shipyards areas in Gdańsk, with its all huge heritage of this place, there are new life and new social relations are born, and that's great, I think. Yeah, so that's all, and greetings from Gdańsk, and thank you once again.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and the second jury award, which is above 30, which goes to, it's like the Oscar goes to, but right now this is not the Oscar, this is the diploma that goes to Vanda Rita Oliveira for the photograph Stormy Days and Sagres Promontory. So as you can see, we have a photograph, very beautiful photograph, which was taken in the southern western part of Portugal, which was very important. It was like a key point in the era of the great geographical discoveries. So, Mr. Maria?
Dzień dobry, gratuluję bardzo serdecznie tego zdjęcia, tego pomysłu i zapraszamy do kolejnych konkursów i zapraszamy oczywiście do Lublina.
Thank you. Can we have few comments?
I want to thank you all the members of the jury, and good morning for all from Sagres in Portugal. I'm a little bit nervous and I want to explain that I'm passionate about photography, and this image, it talks about the place and like a wild place, and about the history of the place. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy.
Obrigada. Thank you all.
I'm very happy that what was mentioned, that was the first edition of the photo competition, and probably, as I understood, this will be continued in the future. So well done, the city of Lublin, which was the initiator of the competition. And I think it is very important, thank you very much, very important as one of the activities would help to disseminate the knowledge of the European heritage label sites. Just to add at the end, this is like, you know, the diplomas are not everything, and also the winners are getting the money prize, which will get to them sooner or later. We do hope sooner. Okay, so right now we are just passing to the part of our meeting today, of our conference, which will refer also to the project activities. And therefore, we will again ask and join with Gerald, and who will talk about the EHL project status presentation, and he will have this. Okay, Gerald, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, from my side, congratulations to the winners. I'm very grateful that we had this competition this year, and I hope also that we will make it bigger next year. The small disappointment I would have here is all the winners are from Poland and Portugal. We need more diversity in the future, that's definitely. But I think that will happen. So, did I? No, that's. Now you should see my screen, I think. Yeah. My task is a little bit to tell you about the status of the network itself. I will do that quite very shortly. The original call was mentioned or was named by Design and Management of Networking and Capacity Building Activities for EHL sites, so EHL sites, and we call it EHL. At the beginning, when we start as the sites, the first site was selected 2013. The visibility of the label is quite, there's quite room for improvement. And after some years of selecting the sites and awarding the label to them, it was quite obvious that there is another level of support needed. So on the one hand, we had the commission, they run the label and select the new sites. But they are limited in that what they can do for the sites, of course. The sites are, of course, asked to show and display the label and work and do some activities. But between the sites and in relation to the commission, there was a lag. And that was the reason to create this network. So we had a project start in already October 2019. Originally, it was planned for 20 months, so it would be already over because it would then stop at the 10th of June this year. But we get an extension, a prolongation of the project until the end of February next year. We still do need that because, as you all know, the COVID situation also delays some of the project work. So we had still to do some things to get to fulfill all the activity we have mentioned in our application. We are, as I already mentioned, 19 partners and 11 associate partners. So this was the reason that it was the only application for that call, because the rules avoid that there was a second application in that case as well. As I mentioned, we should work on capacity measures for the network and the sites to make them stronger and help them to collaborate better. One of the tasks we decide also for the future, because all the other networks do have, or most of the networks do have a formal organization. And I think it's much better to have that formal organization, as one of the sites always goes as the as the one in the front. We did that in the first time because we didn't have the network. But I think from the aspects of the values we have in the sites, I think it makes sense to have an association where we are participating equally. Of course, we are working on branding, communication, dissemination measures to make the label more visible, and also we make we created some social media presences. We had the website for the network. We also presented since end of 2019, we have a regular newsletter for all the projects and also for the EHL. We made the photo competition, as you already know, and we had several social media presences like on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to make the label more visible. Our work in the network itself is organized in working groups. So we have different or several topics where we are working on. So first of one was project feasibility, that we deal with the topic that we support each other to define if that project is feasible or not. To be honest, there was not really very much work on that. We did much more on audience development, how we can learn from each other and do have a better audience development, stronger relation to our visitors, customers, however we call them. We work on the topic of incoming generation for the network because to make it sustainable, we are convinced that we need some income also. We agreed on helping each other in the monitoring process we ran through last year, 2020. So it was finished just before the COVID crisis starts to rise. So we had some learnings from that, and hopefully we will get that information in a presentation in one of our next meetings so that we can learn from that and make sure that we coming out of this monitoring stronger as we was before. We also had the topic of restoration of collections and the maintenance of historic buildings, because both of the topics are relevant for our sites. So we will have some trainings in the second half of this year. We are working on capacity measures in general, how to deal with the label itself and how we can help the sites to increase the visibility of the label in the sites and also in general. And we will see that we was working on the European values very detailed, because we are selected because of the values. But when someone was asking us at the beginning, we had a little struggle with that topic. So now we defined and say, okay, we will tell a story. What are the relevant values which are documented or mentioned in the basic legal base of the European heritage label, so that we are clear in the communication why we get the label and what we represent as sites. And I think Diana will have a short talk later on about this in more detail. The outcomes we had already is a value stories per site. Each site has an idea of how to explain and to tell the story about it. We are currently working on a comic book which shows the goddess Europe traveling through Europe. I hope that will be ready. I would say in autumn, so that we have the chance to present that maybe in our next one of the next meetings we have. And of course, there are several results or measures as an outcome of the work groups we have. Outlook for the future, and I think that I forgot to mention about the photo competition. That really the most positive and thing which makes me happy is the fact the winners, the sites where the pictures are made from, they are not part of the network. So we are open for all sites. So the underwater in heritage in Portugal is a new site which was selected 2020. So they not even able to join us in the network. But I'm really happy that these sites also are in the participating more or less in a way, and they are under the winners as well. The same for Gdansk. Gdansk is already in a site which had the label much longer than the source, but they are not participating as partner in our network, but we are open for a new site. And the idea of the network is, of course, to include all sites, to have a strong, I would not call it strong voice. Maybe Sneska will then be not happy with me, so I take another wording. So we are closer in our communication, have better messages to communicate. And of course, we will introduce the new sites to the network as well. We will continue with the network, so we are in discussion with that. And our next networking meeting after Lublin will be the networking day in the Imperial Palace at the 12th of October. It will be also a hybrid event, and this will be mainly related to the monitoring process, to the results of the monitoring process, so that we can learn from this. So the Commission will explain us what they found, or not the Commission, the panel will explain us, and we will define what we can do with this information, what measures makes sense to go on. And of course, we will present the products and results we already have ready here. So I think that was a short overview about the network and what we have done, what we will do. And yeah, thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Gerald. And congratulations on managing the project in the pandemic times. I think it was a challenge, and it still is, because the conditions are different. It's very difficult to meet personally, and meetings online. I think we are just a little bit fed up with them already. So let's hope the pandemic will be over soon.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I really like the possibility of the online meetings, because it gives us additionally options. But of course, I would definitely prefer to be today in Lublin instead of sitting in front of my computer.
Okay, so
on the other hand,
let's hope it will change.
Not traveling, that's the other hand. So.
Okay. The pros and cons and always. So I believe that the network will, I do hope that the network will live beyond the project, because the number of sites is increasing, I understand, each year. But important part of the project, and also the idea of constructing the European Heritage Label, is to disseminate the knowledge about the heritage, about the sites, to conduct educational activities, and also to popularize the idea of common European values. And one of the project activities was how to develop value stories, how to disseminate this knowledge. So right now, I will ask Diana Czyszewska-Tolak, who will have a recording, a previous recording, who will talk about the development of value stories, the storytelling, and other activities that might be undertaken. Okay, so can you have a recording, please?
Okay. Hello, Diana. Nice to see you. The floor is yours. You'll be talking about the development of value stories, which we, as a partner, prepared. Yes, thank you, and the floor is yours, as I said.
Thank you so much, Michał. So, good afternoon, guys. Or actually, I'm very happy that I can be with you today, even though we recorded a little bit before. Just to be sure that I can be there, because you know, the time of the meeting is very close to the time of my delivery, so that's why we recorded it a little bit before the meeting. I would like to talk about today about our activity number 7, so working group 1, European values and EHL Site, storytelling and spirit of the place. Union of Lublin is a leader of that working group. We were a leader together with Italy, with Museum de Gasperi. However, during the project experience, we became only Union of Lublin is the leader of that group. So just to remind you, so I would like to summarize a little bit our experience in that working group for from our last 2 years. So, what is the aim of this working group? The word process of EHL Site is based on the representation of European values. However, as we noticed before, this representation is not visible enough for the wider audience, so for the basically EU citizens. So one of the major tasks of this network or of this working group is to sharpen the representation of these European values by EHL sites. So for this activity, we were planning to develop a narrative for each of our members to know what values we represent, and to make it and to do this properly. We as a project, as a consortium, will apply the method, or we applied a method of storytelling. How it happens? On last year, on February, on actually 20th of February, we had a meeting in Olmos, where all of us present during this meeting talked about the values and trying to put each side to some values that represent. But we chose all values that are possible. So we haven't narrowed it down to any specific part of the values, but we have just talked about this all site that has EHL label and what values they can represent. Later on, we had our next meetings were online, so only almost we had a possibility to actually be together and discuss it together. And the next online meeting was on 4th of February, but 2021. What we done over there? During this year, that was from the first to the second meeting, we had to narrow down the number of the values, because in the decision of European Parliament and the Council establishing a European Union action for the European Heritage Label, it says that it mentioned 6 values that define the main values for all sites involved in EHL. And these values are freedom, democracy, respect for human rights, culture and linguistic diversity, tolerance, and solidarity. So during our project, we decided that we narrow it down the values only to the 6 ones that are mentioned in this document. So on this meeting on the 4th of February, we had a very it was actually extremely interesting meeting, I think, for all of us. So we read the panel report from all the sites. We have a small discussion about all it, and each of the partners were voting on Mentimeter what values they think that each side is representing. We're trying to put only one value to the one side. It can be more, but we're trying to have it one main value and maybe 2 complementary values. And why we were doing this? Because the people who are responsible for each value, for each side, are having the idea how others perceived the site, what they think, how they can see it. So it was our first exercise. Later on, 1 month later, so in March 9th, we had another workshop, and it was more about knowing more about what is a brand, how to build the brand, what is the spirit of the place, what is a storytelling, what makes a good story. So we looked very closely at some examples of stories that are represent, and they are made in by companies, by institutions, so from different tasks, and we were trying to catch it and develop the best practice to build this good story, because it was more like a little bit technical information, but still it's like the ideas how to build a good story for our purposes. And later on we had 3 meetings where all of you were presenting your stories, your values, your sites. So these meetings were on April 14th, April 30th, and June 3rd. And during these all meetings, each side were talking about their values. It was very short presentations. We decided that it will be maximum 7 minutes, and I was very happy that all of you were so involved in it, and so much you put so much energy in these presentations. And it was very different because some of you used the film and movie, some of you used the Pechakucha format, which I love, and I believe that it's a wonderful tool. Some of you used the traditional presentation, or some of you used some character from your site to talk more about the value. So it was really different approach, but all of you actually focus so much on the task. But what I think was also very important, that it wasn't only your presentation, but also the comments from others, how others see your presentation, or what can be improved for the next time. So some of you actually made this presentation twice because you wanted to use this tips and suggestions for others for the next presentation. So this is how it looks like. So later on, it was a meeting of all the partners on, as far as I remember, 11th of May. I haven't actually been on during that meeting, but during that meeting, it was a final decision was made that on the website each value will be presented and explained, and for each value, each site will write a short paragraph about the value story. So, and this will be the result of all this activity number 7. So working group that is connected with European values and EHL Site, storytelling and spirit of the place. I had really a pleasure to coordinate this working group, and it was for me a fantastic experience, and I was really happy that I could share my own experience about the storytelling and also hear your experiences and your presentations and your tips. And thank you so much for being so much involved in this activity. Thank you so much. Michał, I think
thank you, Diana. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Diana. Unfortunately, not with us today. And I think a few things that Diana has mentioned, the things like spirit of the place. And the spirit of the place, I think it's best seen in the photographs that have been awarded today. So it is very important. The discussion of the values that we share as the Europeans, it is also part of necessary activities that have to be taken by all the organizations that represent EHL sites. And it has to be remembered, this is what Gerald mentioned, that there is still room of improvement in that respect, because the idea of European heritage is, of course, known to everybody. There are many initiatives, but EHL sites, they need to be more promoted. But coming back to the idea of the values, of the shared values, and the discussions that are made about the values and how they are perceived from different sides. Because this is like, not everybody sees the European values and the values of our history and the story that is behind our history in the same way. So I think we will now have a very interesting, because I had a privilege to see it before, the discussion between the representatives of the academic society. We will have Professor Jūratė Kiaupienė from the Lithuanian Institute of History from Vilnius in Lithuania, Professor Krzysztof Pietkiewicz, which will join us virtually, but also will be here with us in person in the Lublin Castle, who represent Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań. And in the registration, we have Hubert Mącik, who is the head of the Municipal Office for Historic Preservation in the city of Lublin. So let us present you the discussion on the values of the Union of Lublin.
Już jest włączone.
Dziękuję bardzo Państwu za przyjęcie naszego zaproszenia do tego spotkania.
Thank you very much everyone for accepting our invitation to this meeting. I'm very happy we can listen to this short exchange between outstanding experts dealing with history of the European Union as well. So we'll be very happy to hear from you. We have Professor Kiaupienė from Vilnius University and Professor Pietkiewicz of Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań, great renowned historians of Polish and Lithuanian relationships, but also relationships within East Central Europe. And my questions, the subjects we are going to cover, mainly refer to the tradition, to the heritage of the Union of Lublin in the context of the overall European heritage and the European Heritage label that Lublin was awarded a few years ago for cultivating this tradition of the Union of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, a predecessor, we can say, of today's European Union. The justification of the European panel of experts that assessed our application reads as follows. They say that the Union of Lublin of 1589 combined Poland and Lithuania, or the Crown and the Duchy of Lithuania. As a result, a single state was established, sharing the same monarch, the same parliament. It was a combination of two states that led to integration and coexistence, peaceful coexistence of different nations under the same label. We know, of course, that there were more nations than just two in the contemporary meaning, covered by the Commonwealth arrangement, and the tradition of this union has a different reception today in different historical studies. So we would like to hear your perspective on the values that the Union of Lublin has for us today. Just to mention rule of law, democracy, freedom, multi-ethnicity or multilingualism. So I would be very happy to hear from you and share your reflections based on your many years research and study of the subject. May I have Professor Klaupiena to address the subject first? Thank you. Can you hear me, gentlemen? I just wanted to make a reservation. I'm not an employer of Vilnius University. I work at the Lithuanian Academy of Sciences, the Institute of History. And this is an important difference because, well, Vilnius University might take offense if you tell them I work for them. So, very briefly, besides the values that you have already mentioned, from Lithuanian perspective, the most important value, political value, in the 16th century was the Lithuanian statehood. That was the political asset of that arrangement. And at Lublin, they compromised. They reached an agreement. A number of different political groups reached an agreement. In the middle of the 16th century, there were many and various such groupings. And the Union of Lublin did not mean that these political cultures merged. Rather, it started a new stage of cooperation and coexistence of different groups, traditions, languages in the same Commonwealth. And the differences, some of them were, of course, overcome. But the act of Union of Lublin enriched all these nations and started, we can say, a democratic process. So these values are still very topical in Lithuania. And of course, I'm not saying the other values are less important, but another one is religiousness. The Grand Duchy of Lithuania had a number of denominations. Christianity was adopted much earlier. So statehood and religiousness, that were the two primary values. So 123 years after the partitions of Poland, a number of Central European countries regained independence. So in 1918, Lithuania also regained its independence. And over this 123 years, the Lithuanian state was not on the map of Europe, but it did not disappear. Its people did not disappear. So their idea of recovery was very vivid, just like in Poland. And after 1918, Lithuanians became a modern nation, a nation unconscious of its statehood, of its national spirit. Lithuanian society at the beginning of the 20th century worked for its country, for its independence as sovereign people. And historical experience led Lithuanian nation towards the European Union, which was a natural follow-up in historical terms. Thank you.
Bardzo dziękuję pani profesor.
Thank you,
Z punktu widzenia
Professor.
nas tutaj w Polsce, oczywiście poza specjalistami, którzy zajmują się
From the Polish perspective, besides experts dealing with this problem, we know very little about Lithuanian point of view. That's why your remarks are particularly interesting, particularly valuable. I hope this is not all we are going to hear from you today. Now let me turn to Professor Pietkiewicz and hear about our contemporary reception of the Union of Lublin and its tradition. Well, I'd like to add to what Professor Klaupienė said, but maybe from a slightly different perspective. Well, going back to the very beginnings, if we look at what happened before the Union of Lublin, it was that the first union was 1386, although we know very little about it. But that project, let me put it in contemporary terms, that project of Commonwealth survived until the end of the 18th century. So the Union of Lublin was just a step in this many centuries process. So if we look at how international relations develop in general, then the value of the Union of Lublin was peace in the first place, because the two nations, very large area nations by those standards, because Lithuania covered part of contemporary Belarus, Russia, Ukraine. It was a very diverse community, ethnically, religiously diverse. So the two nations that came together, they ensured security to each other. Even if they competed at some levels, it was peaceful, because there were no wars waged between the two nations. So that was, we can say, very much like a contemporary model of European Union, which in a sense denies something that in political sciences we call political realism of international policy, which is the use of force, the use of advantage of the big over the small. In this case, the advantage of the big is reduced because there is some equality behind the idea of a union. So in this case, it was something new. And from Lithuanian perspective, I understand that balance wasn't there, and it will never be there, because we have different potentials. I mean, the two nations. If we even look at our countries today, it's a difference like 10-1. If we look at, for example, the other neighbor, Germany has twice as a big population as Poland, but Poland has 10 times as big population as Lithuania. So this advantage is in a way neutralized or leveled by this peaceful, equal and free project that promises everyone, both big and small. It promises equal voice, equal vote and security. And this is what is happening now in the European Union. And that was at the very foundations, that idea was at the very foundations of Polish-Lithuanian Union. Because from then on, even if there was any competition, if there were any obstacles, they were resolved peacefully. Of course, we know, me and Professor, we know there were some misunderstandings, some clashes on the way, but overall, our shared interest made the two nations work together and coexist peacefully until the end of Poland's independence at the end of the 18th century. Well, very, very interesting remarks. Sometimes people who are not historians by profession, they don't realize some of these facts. I just want to ask you to share one more reflection, which is particularly interesting and has a link to European Heritage Label. How do you see today, as experts in the field, how do you see contemporary reception of the Union of Lublin, of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth? Do you feel people know about it, people talk about it? If not, then how should we develop awareness of the Union, what measures we can take to promote the spirit of European Heritage Label and everything that's behind it? How can we work for greater awareness of that past relationship? So can we have Lithuanian perspective, please? Well, it's not easy to tell. There is a great difference between Lithuanian and Poles in terms of memory of the Union. In Poland, we know exactly, Poles know it, this is a very deep knowledge and awareness. In Lithuania, the Union of Lublin is just one of many historical facts. Historians write about it, but readers don't necessarily read it. Why is that? Well, some problems, some discussions that were held back before the Act of Union are still there, are still vivid. They were never resolved. Lithuanian society is attached to its Grand Duchy of Lithuania as its original state. And the Kingdom of Poland was a separate being. And if you ask contemporary members of the population for an important historical fact, they will not point to the Act of Union of Lublin, but they will point to 1918 and regaining independence from the Soviet Union. So during the partitions of Poland, of Commonwealth, Lithuania was not on the map either, but it never disappeared, it never vanished from people's hearts, memory. So I would say historians are mostly interested in the Union of Lublin. This is a historical subject. It has no inclinations, repercussions or emotions among contemporary society. That's my view. Well, indeed, we can say that this is largely true. We can tell by, for example, the Kaunas and its modernist architecture, which was also nominated to European Heritage label. It was a manifestation of Lithuanian independence, sovereignty, taking its own way in the 1930s. What about the Polish perspective, Professor? Well, from our side, things look completely different because we believe that the period, this historical period after the Union of Lublin, was the absolute prime time in the history of Poland. Poland, the Commonwealth, in size grew dramatically, and it stretched from one sea to another, from the Baltic to the Black Sea. After South Ruthenia was attached to Poland, so the Commonwealth reached again from the Baltic Sea to the very south of Ukraine and almost to the Black Sea, but in fact South Ukrainian steppes. But what is missing, if you look at contemporary society, what is missing in terms of a discussion on the Union is, I think, a departure from this narrative about the grandness of Poland, about the imperial aspirations of Poland and the domination of Polish culture towards cooperation, because first, there is this problem of the third nation of the Commonwealth, which is Ruthenian or Rush, because this was not only Lithuania and Poland, but in fact we have maybe 5 or 6 nations that dwelled within the Commonwealth. Don't forget about today's Latvia, Estonia, Belarus, Ukraine, and even western outskirts of Moscow, of Russia. So all these ethnic groups and nations might register some claims, some pretenses to contribute to the Union. But anyway, all these nations coexisted and collaborated. Of course, Poland dominated this arrangement, but still we can somehow try to refer it to contemporary times and European values of peaceful cohabitation, coexistence, open borders, a free flow of people, and shared values. Thank you. Well, thank you. This was a very interesting viewpoint. It seems like in today's Poland, many people feel the same. Very often, instead of saying Commonwealth, that historical area is often referred to simply as Poland, which is historically not true. Let me stress again. For the first time, after the Second World War, we are witnessing in Europe, at least in Europe, we are witnessing the end of the influence of the greatest powers that dictate conditions. We have national states following their own interest. So, politics in Europe is subject to negotiation, to agreement, to discussion, until a shared stance, shared opinion is found. And this was originally at the foundations of the project of the Union of Lublin. And with all respect to the Grand Duchy of Lithuania as an inferior side, in a sense, in the Commonwealth, they were able to have specific sovereignty, although they, in a sense, lost their Grand Duke, who became the King of Poland. But still, Lithuania managed to maintain its statehood, which is the case today in contemporary European Union. Thank you for this very interesting contribution. I'm very happy that Professor Pietkiewicz is here with us in Lublin in person. I'm sorry Professor Klaud Piene is not, but I'm glad that we have been able to talk online and listen to your discussion. Thank you very much. I'm afraid we have to finish at this moment. Thank you again for being with us on and off site. Thank you. I hope this is not the end of our discussions, our cooperation, and I will have a chance to hear your opinions a number of times again in the future.
Okay, thank you for having this very interesting discussion. So we have all agreed that we share the common values and we also share the common history in Europe, but it always has to be remembered that the points of view on that history, on the impact of the development of particular countries and Europe as a whole may be different. And it's very important to be able to discuss it, to be able to express opinions which might be different, sometimes contradictory. So I think it was very interesting to see the points of two historians from both Poland and Lithuania, and how actually the Union of Lublin is treated and how it influenced the history of the both countries and of the both nations. So we are coming back to the activities which are conducted in reference to the European Heritage Label and how to promote the sites and also the sign. So we'll present you 3 anniversary books which were prepared and published. I think, Kasia, you have to come to me, so you can have a look. This is like, the compilation, the first one, the 450th anniversary of the Union of Lublin, Congress of 2 unions from the Lublin Union to the European Union, which is a compilation of the presentation and discussions made during the Congress. Also, we have here the second book, which is the Union of Lublin and its tradition, and it's also the compilation of essays and different voices of the Union of Lublin. And here, which I believe it was an inspiration for your activities in the project. So there is a voice and there is a tool to attract young people. So there was a comic book prepared which refers to the story of the Union of Lublin, and which is called A Story Inspired by History. And I understand that what you do in the project with the comic book, it's like, it was a starting inspiration and a starting point. The Union of Lublin is the history, it is the tradition, and it is still in our minds. But there are also activities, modern activities that are undertaken as a part of the cooperation projects, international cooperation projects, also to commemorate the the tradition of the Union of Lublin and the cooperation between the two nations, and particularly cooperation between the two cities, the city of Lublin and the city of Vilnius. And therefore, in the square, in the main square in Lublin, there is a portal, yes, a virtual portal, thanks to which the citizens of Lublin and of Vilnius, tourists and all people who are interested, they can join virtually one another. So if we could show you how the portal works and exists, yes, we have a short film.
This is you. And this is me. Look at me. Do you see me? I'm just the same. Just like you. Let's rise above the illusion of us and them. Let's experience our world as it is. United and one, without borders, prejudices, and labels. Let's transcend the sense of separation and be the pioneers of a united planet.
Okay, thank you. I can only tell you that it was a point of interest for inhabitants of Lublin, and it was quite interesting to watch how people react and interact with inhabitants of Vilnius. So this is all due to development of ICT technologies. So we are getting back actually to the network itself, and we'll have two presentations about the comic book as a means to promote, and also the presence in the social media, and these two things were also enlisted by Gerald as one of activities to promote the site, to promote the label, and just to be more active generally. So we are now connecting with Miroslav Kindl from the museum in Olomouc, I'm not sure, sorry for mispronouncing, who will tell us more about the comic book and its the idea, and and also how it will be used to promote EHL sites. Okay. Good morning, Miroslav. The floor is yours. Okay. I think we have some...
Hello?
Okay, it does work.
Good morning to everybody, but as I can see, I'm not moving.
I think we can hear you. We have a problem with... we can hear you, so... There's a problem with the connection, or... Okay, I think there's a problem with your internet connection. So, okay, it's better now. I think it is better now.
Yes.
We can see you walking, so if you could stand somewhere and give us a presentation.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. I'm on a research stay.
Okay.
On a medieval comic books. I'm surrounded by medieval wall paintings that could be distinguished as a source of inspiration for the comic book. Anyway, can I share my screen with the comic book, with the presentation?
Yes, I think you can. I will just... Okay, we just, I think, need a second.
Yes.
Okay, it does work. Okay, okay, so the floor is yours.
Okay, so hello, good morning, everybody. As a part of the EHL project, we are preparing a comic book that will deal with all the sites. Every site, it means from the 49 sites, will have its own page with a story of its site. The main point of the comic book is a figure of Europa. It's the figure of, it's a lady figure on a bull, and Europa is traveling through all the sites, through the 49 sites, and is knowing the meaning and the importance of every site for Europe. Just now we work on a comic book for 2 months. We have more than 1/3 of the pages prepared. It means we have about 15 pages. And we plan to have it ready till the end of August. Here you can see, for example, Münster and Osnabrück. Before that, there was a Hambach Castle. Here is Münster and Osnabrück, Abbey of Cluny, Union of Lublin, of course, Charter of Law Abolition of the Death Penalty, or the Imperial Palace in Vienna, or Jaworca Church. We have more of them, but we will finish till the end of August. During the summer, during the holidays, I will send, when every single page is ready to be presented, I send it before the final proofs, I send it to the representative of every site for proof. So you can expect, if you were not already, if I didn't send you the page of your comic or your part of the comic book for proofs, you can expect it during the holidays for the proofs, and then it's gonna be published, printed, I think in 5,000 volumes during the September and October. We also will prepare a version, a national or a local language version. It means that we will send to everybody the data. It means the InDesign data, and you will be able, with the help of a graphic artist, to put your own language in the comic bubbles. We expect that to be ready during the September and October also. Yes, here is, for example, the siege memorial and other parts. The artists, both are Czechs. The writer of the story is Martin Szynkowski. He's a renowned Czech writer of books for young people and children, and also a renowned writer of comic books. The drawer is Petr Novák, aka Ticho. His name, or his art's name, is Ticho, and they both are preparing the comic books. Okay, I hope you will enjoy it, and you can expect your pages or the part of the comic book that will be dedicated to your site for proofs during the holidays or September at the latest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand this is a tool to attract young people, isn't it?
Yes. It has to attract young people. We try to focus on the age of, for example, I don't know, 13 to 26, something like that.
Okay. I think it's a very good idea. Thank you very much. Although I'm sometimes a little bit scared that this is like, for young people, it's not the text but pictures, so we just can't focus only on pictures. But anyway, thank you very much. Very interesting idea, I think very good. And social media, it's in modern era, it's necessary to be present in social media if you want to pass a message. So Katarzyna will tell us more about how you actually are present and what ideas you have created for that. Okay.
Yes, so hello again, me. And as Mirosław presented a tool for young people, and nowadays, in my opinion, social media is also the best for to reach young people and to encourage them to spread some ideas and support such initiatives like European Heritage Label, for example. And another educational and promotional activity taken under European Heritage Label Network project was creating different social media platforms to share the information about the sites, to create a common platform, because Lublin is responsible for that, for Facebook fan page, but it's not it's a tool for promote the all sites, not only this sites which create Island project, but all sites, and we present there all events connected with the sites, online meetings, exhibitions, 3D animations, virtual tours, and so on. So that's a great tool to share all initiatives taken by the sites. And also we had an Instagram account and to share the mentioned activities, LinkedIn accounts, so in social media presence in general. And that's the opportunity to ask all of you to like and to follow the European Heritage Label social media, and to also share all initiatives which you also want to show them, connected with heritage, European heritage, and our common, and also values, which we discussed also these topics earlier. So,
okay, I may only say that I follow your Facebook fan page, and I do like it from time to time.
Okay, great. So please, not only from time to time.
And I have a question. So, after the project completion, will you continue your presence or in social media,
yes,
or will it be extended to, let's say, newcomers? I mean, these sites that were awarded the label, I think, last year.
Last year.
Yes.
Yes, we follow the Facebooks of the sites, and we are in permanent contact with them. And if anyone from the sites want to share an event, just simply send an information. And yes, we want to go on with this work, because it's worth still building the European Heritage Label presence, and we will do it.
Okay. So thank you, Katarzyna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Gerald, I think we are just coming nearly to the end. Would you like to sum up somehow the conference, the project, its activities, or maybe you would just like to make a comment as the project leader?
Yeah. To summarize the project, I think it's a little bit too early, because we still have some months to work on. You heard about the timeline for the comic book, and also for the other things we still have in plan. So we need the time until February next year. But of course, I think we do something which helped the sites to be more present, or the label to be more present, and also the conference today is one element of this idea and this objective to give more visibility to the sites and to the label. And I'm very happy that we have had that conference, and we still have some activities in the next months. So, yeah. And you mentioned about continuation with the social media presence and other stuff. Yes, we will do that. That's also a commitment of the Imperial Palace in Vienna, because we think we need that kind of collaboration. Otherwise, the label will not get the, as I would call it, the required visibility and attention which should be there. And we're also thinking about getting a new fund for another period to continue with the work for the network and for the label.
Okay, it's very good. I think it's worth stressing here that the project like yours are just very often are just the beginning of a long-term cooperation. Yes, so you start with something and you manage and you decide to go on without even support of different EU funds. And I would like to stress that you engage lots of people, you direct activities to young people, which is particularly important. But also it's worth mentioning that, for example, lots of representatives of the European institutions were involved in the works of the jury of the photo competition. Yes, so it's I think it's worth mentioning it. Okay, thank you very much, Gerald, for your comment. And we are having right now a film about the celebrations of the 450th anniversary of the Union of Lublin. So you'll see what happened actually in Lublin. Okay, thank you very much. As you could see, it was a great time for Lublin. Lots of activities were undertaken to celebrate the Union of Lublin. Lots of people were involved, and actually there were different things organized, like, from conferences to actual feasts, to concerts. So we had a political level involved, lots of cultural events, and they were directed to different people, to children, to young people, to even elderly people, I can say. So I think it was a great event for Lublin, and it was organized with the cooperation also of our Lithuanian partners. Okay, so this is all about the Union of Lublin, and I would like right now I would like to talk about the newcomers. I mean, the sites who were awarded the European Heritage Label last year. So I'm not quite sure, correct me if I'm wrong, right now we have, according to my information, we have 48 EHL sites, or 49, I'm not absolutely sure, so somebody may correct me. 19 partners in the project, 48, okay, so this is the number from the website of the European Commission, so I may assume they are right about it. So we have 10 new sites that some of them have already been presented today in the photo competition, but we will name them, and we also have a pleasure today to show you some films displaying the sites, talking story about the sites. Unfortunately, we have only 4 films that were sent by representatives of the sites, so we also invite others to join this network. And so here we are starting with the archaeological area of Ostia Antica in Italy, which we have actually film material recording. And this is the place where this is the place where goods, different cultures, migration, so everything. It was like a melting spot for cultures, for traditions, for people. And that's why it was awarded an EHL Site as an important place showing how Europe developed. So we are having right now a short film. Thank you very much. The second place is Underwater Culture Heritage of Azores, Portugal, that has already been mentioned today. And this is like, this is a network of this cultural heritage consists of a network of 30 public dive sites centered on a range of shipwrecks dating between the 15th and the 20th centuries. So this is the story of the transcontinental journeys and how Europe developed. And so it is important from also the archaeological point of view. Unfortunately, we haven't received a presentation, a film of information. The third one is Colonies of Benevolence in Belgium and the Netherlands. I'm not sure whether I understood it correctly, but it reminds me of the idea of cooperatives. And this is like, the idea and the value of the site concerns also people who had like, you know, the problems with living in a society, and the idea was how to use and invest on agriculture on a barren land. So this is like how to also involve the people who are socially marginalized in the societies, which is also very important right now. The next site is Living Heritage of Szentendre in Hungary, and that site concerns the idea of a tolerance, of a peaceful coexistence, of a spirit of multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-linguistic society. And then we have on the list the Kinjvart Castle, which is a place of diplomatic meetings in the place located in the Czech Republic. But this is not connected with, which is important, with person of the Chancellor Metternich, because his legacy may be evaluated in definitely different ways. But the castle is recognized as the important place for the history of European diplomacy. And we have a short film. Unfortunately, I think without English subtitles, I don't know if our technical team managed to add them or not, but we are having the film anyway. Okay.
Mám velkou radost z toho, že zámek Kinjvart dostal ocenění v podobě označení Evropské dědictví obdoby seznamu UNESCO v Evropě. V rámci napoleonských válek ztratili Metternichové, jejichž původ je jinak na břehu Rýna, svoje državy a museli jít do exilu do Vídně. V tu dobu se tedy Kinjvart, který ležel v tom rakouském císařství, stal hlavní takovou ekonomickou državou. Tím odchodem z Porýní se Kinjvart stal zhruba na 100 let, na 3 generace, jakýmsi centrem diplomacie a bylo to takový století rozvoje Kinjvartu. Jednou z těch hlavních osobností je tadyhle kníže Franz Georg, první kníže rodu, a jeho syn je dnes nejznámějším členem Metternichů. Je to pozdější kancléř rakouského císařství Klement Václav Lothar Paul Alfons Nepomuk, kníže Metternich Winneburg-Ballstein, vévoda z Portely a hrabě na Kinjvartu, etc. Tady se nacházíme v kancléřově pracovně. Je tady velmi vzácný artefakt v podobě stolu z Vídeňského kongresu. Vídeňský kongres de facto řídil kancléř Metternich a patří mezi jeden z těch jeho politických a diplomatických vrcholů. Na tomto stolu se údajně podepisovala ta závěrečná akta. Jedním z důvodů, proč jsme získali to mezinárodní ocenění Evropské dědictví, je vlastně úloha kancléře Metternicha coby mírotvorce. On se celý život snažil zajistit mír a jeho protipólem byl Napoleon Bonaparte. Tady jsou známý 2 výroky. Napoleon Bonaparte při diskuzi v Drážďanech řekl: já kašlu na životy milionů lidí. A zatímco kancléře spíš charakterizuje jiný výrok, který použil právě při Vídeňském kongresu a řekl: válka je zlo, pošpiní všechno, včetně myšlení. Proto pracuji pro mír navzdory protestům bláznů a hlupáků. Jedním z kinjvarských pokladů je prezentace nástolníků v této podobě. Tady můžete vidět vlastně slavnostní tabuli pro 24 osob, který vévodí velký zlacený nástolník, který získal kníže Richard, když končil svoji diplomatickou misi v Paříži právě od města Paříže. Jinak další takovou jako cennou kolekcí je právě ten soubor těch plastik z kararského mramoru. od Antonia Canovy. Nejcennější je to sousoší Amor a Psyché. Kancléř tohle sousoší od Canovy viděl v Louvru. Zamiloval se vlastně do toho sousoší a toužil potom ho získat, ale tam to samozřejmě nebylo možné. Tak se domluvil s autorem Antonio Canovou, aby mu udělal autorskou kopii. A Canova nakonec udělal 3 tyhle sousoší. Jedno je v Louvru, jedno je u nás na Kynžvartě, 3. v Ermitáži v Petrohradě. A liší se jenom v malých detailech a to naše je nejkrásnější. Málo kdo ví, že Sachrův dort vzniknul na dvoře nebo v knížecí kuchyni kancléře Metternicha, kdy kuchtík jménem Sachr vytvořil první variantu toho dortu, která později byla dotvořena doplněním meruňkové marmelády a čokoládovou vrstvou na povrchu. K tomu vylepšení došlo u cukráře Daimla a dokonce v tom 19. století probíhal soudní spor mezi Sachrem a Daimlem o autorství tohoto oblíbeného dezertu. A protože to známe pod pojmem Sachdort, tak je jasné, že ten soudní spor vyhrál právě původně kuchtík kancléře Metternicha Sachr. Tady vidíme 4 oltářní desky od Bernarda Strigela, patří mezi nejcennější obrazy tady na zámku. Pocházejí z roku 1516 a zobrazují legendu o nalezení ostatků svatého kříže. Protože jsme viděli 2 takové formální portréty, tak tady je vlastně kancléř Metternich v 5 letech. Tak, nacházíme se v kancléřově knihovně. Knihovna byla taky jeho oblíbeným místem, kde trávil hodně času. V knihovně se nachází 24 000 svazků a jedním z takových cenných exponátů je Atlas světa, 4dílný Atlas světa, který pochází z první poloviny 18. století. Člověk dneska si myslí, že v tom 18. století jakoby neměli tu podrobnost takovou, ale třeba Evropa, ta je opravdu dopodrobna zmapovaná, potom třeba to Tichomoří už není třeba tak do detailu, ale přesto vlastně celá ta zeměkoule už byla známá už na počátku 18. století. Kabinet kuriozit je jednou z částí toho z historického zámeckého muzea. Je to místnost, kde se nachází zhruba 2000 předmětů. Každý z nich je spojen s nějakou událostí nebo osobností nebo s nějakým místem na planetě a má v sobě jakýsi příběh. Tady můžeme vidět třeba archeologické nálezy, ať už z Jižní Ameriky nebo egyptologickou sbírku. Je tady kuriozita typu měřič sympatií nebo v druhé vitríně památky na významné osobnosti, ať už to byl přímo kancléř Metternich nebo papež nebo Marie Terezie, Marie Antonieta. V prostoru vidíme stůl Alexandra Dumas, na kterém údajně napsal svůj slavný román 3 mušketýři a hrabě Monte Cristo. Mezi nejstarší exponáty na zámku patří teda 2 pravé egyptské mumie, včetně rakví. Ta černá je starší, je 2500 let stará a ta horní je teda o něco mladší, tam leží kněz Pentahutres, dole jsem zapomněl jméno zmínit, je to Ken Amon. Nicméně kancléř Metternich tyto mumie nekoupil, ale dostal je darem od egyptského místokrále Muhammada Alího ve 20. letech 19. století. Jakousi raritou jsou tadyhle ty podivné smotky, tak to jsou také mumie, ale jsou to mumie malých krokodýlků. Tady visí Kristus, který byl umístěn v zámeckém parku v kapli svatého kříže. Dneska v parku je jeho kopie, originál, protože je to velmi cenné dílo, je dneska tady na zámku uložené. A zámecký park je velmi jakoby důležitou součástí této letní rezidence a byl to jeden z takových jako milých projektů kancléře Metternicha. Provádím kontrolu. Takže tadyhle je vidět ten Kristus, který originál je na zámku, tak tady je teda kopie. Nicméně tadyhle ta halová konstrukce je opravdu unikátní v České republice. Inspirační zdroj vychází ze zámku v Luxemburku, to je v dnešním Rakousku, protože ten tvůrce toho parku v Luxemburku je stejný jako u nás na Kynžvardském parku. A tady ta konstrukce vznikla v roce 1835 u příležitosti příjezdu císaře Ferdinanda I. na zámek Kynžvart a je dochovaná i grafika, kdy tady císař s císařovnou se modlí právě v této kapli. Tohle je pomník na památku princezny Antonie Pascalini. To byla dcera knížete Metternicha, která zemřela velmi jakoby brzy po svém sňatku s hrabětem Jiřím Valdštejnem z Duchcova. Její rodiče ji měli velmi rádi, taky tady ve svém parku postavili tadyhle ten pomník na její památku. Obelisk neboli památník dvou císařů, ten vzniknul v roce 1835 a základní kámen položil císař Ferdinand I. S kancléřem Metternichem a je to památník, který symbolizuje dva lvy, jednoho spícího a jednoho bdělého. Ten spící představuje císaře Františka I., který zesnul a na jeho místo nastoupil jeho syn Ferdinand I. A to je ten lev, který bdí. Lidi se taky ptají, proč je jeden šedivý a jeden červený. Je to proto, že v 90. letech toho červeného ukradli a podařilo se ho najít ve sběrných surovinách. Přivezl se sem a měl se začít restaurovat, bohužel nebylo dost finančních prostředků, takže od té doby zůstal vlastně jakoby takzvaně rozdělaný a nejsou teda finance na to dokončit. No. Tady je křížek, který se nazývá Štolbový muka. Já jsem jel schválně z toho důvodu, že tohle se nám podařilo v minulých 2 letech zrestaurovat. Je to teda nepoměrně menší než teda ten obelisk. Je to jakoby věc, která byla poškozená vandaly několik let zpátky a trvalo teda léta, než se povedlo sehnat na to dost prostředků. Je to kulturní památka, takže to musí projít vždycky tím restaurátorským režimem. Tohle je takzvaný Mariánský údolí s takzvaným černým rybníkem. Tady se tvrdí, že tamhle ta lavička pod tím skalním jakoby výchozem, tak tam se dával ten GT. Ten zámek pro dnešní návštěvníky působí jako novostavba, která vznikla na zelené louce v tom 19. století. Ale ve své hmotě má trojkřídlý barokní zámek a dvoukřídlou renesanční tvrz. A to, co to kryje, je taková jakoby tenká tlupička toho neoklasicismu. Ta obnova byla tak důsledná a tak velkorysá, že dneska jenom málo který návštěvník si všimne barokní klenby nebo výběhu renesančního hřebínku klenby. Takže u nás to působí jakoby čistě jednotně z toho 19. století, ale to baroko a renesance je v tom zámku stále jako čitelná a patrná. Dneska jste viděli kousek Kynžvartu. Přijďte se na něj podívat zblízka.
Thank you. We believe the Kynžvart Castle is a beautiful place to visit with a very interesting history. But we also have some of the EHL sites to commemorate the difficult history of Europe, which is connected with wars, military conflicts, and lots of human suffering. And this is the importance of the site of remembrance in Łambinowice in Poland. So we also have a short film.
The railway station Łambinowice. Until the end of the Second World War, Lambsdorff, it was the other German name that got engraved in the memory of tens of thousands of people of all over the world. In the years when wars were fought, Lambsdorff was a destination for cattle car trains filled up with prisoners of war of different nationalities. It was here that columns were formed to move to the camps located a few kilometers away. Also in the times of peace, after each of the global conflicts, Lambsdorff-Łambinowice was a place where civilians were detained. Today, to get to know the history of this place, tourists visit it. The history of the camps of Lambsdorff dates back to 1870s and is marked with crosses. The oldest ones remind us the war between Prussia and France, fought in the years 1870-1871. Yet at the very beginning there was an artillery shooting range set up here. First Prussian and then next German soldiers practiced here, getting ready for the successive wars. In the autumn of 1870, a camp was organized within the area of the range to accommodate about 3,500 to 4,000 French prisoners of war. 52 of them were buried in this cemetery. The shooting range had been considerably extended before the outbreak of the First World War. In 1914, the huts that had been already put up in the years of peace started to be filled with prisoners of war. The subsequent years saw both more prisoners of war and more huts. It is estimated that until 1918 there had been about 90,000 soldiers of the Entente detained in the camp. As a result of diseases and exhaustion, about 7,000 prisoners of war died in the camp. All of them were buried in separate graves in the cemetery beside the French prisoners of war of 1871. After the First World War, Lambsdorff's shooting range accommodated German repatriates from Upper Silesia, Greater Poland and Pomerania. Later, again, the shooting range resumed its former function, hosting Wehrmacht soldiers who came to practice here. The building for the former shooting range headquarters is the site of the present Central Museum of Prisoners of War in Łambinowice Opole. It also houses a display devoted, among others, to the history of the prisoners of war camps of Lambsdorff. In the years of the Second World War, the German authorities organized a huge complex of Wehrmacht-run prisoner of war camps, one of the biggest in Europe. Over 300,000 prisoners of war of different nationalities were kept in stalags of Lambsdorff. In the autumn of 1939, soldiers of the Polish army came here. Altogether, there are a few dozen thousand of them staying at Stalag 8B Lambsdorff. Along with the developments on the front lines, there were soldiers of other armies fighting against the Third Reich who were brought to the camp. The French, Belgians, Yugoslavians, Greeks and Americans. Among them was also John McLean of Australia.
My father was a prisoner of war here in 1943, 44, 45. It's good to know that the actual camp is gone. And there's something else here, but it's also good for it to be remembered. And the museum is fantastic.
There are few other traces of the tragic past to be found in Łambinowice. Part of the buildings of the former Stalag 318, 8 by F. Lambsdorff have been preserved until today. The German authorities established the camp in spring 1941 in connection with the planned aggression on the Soviet Union. For Soviet prisoners of war, Lambsdorff was a place of extermination. Of about 200,000, nearly 40,000 found their deaths here. The dead were buried in mass graves with no names attached to them. From 1942, the burial place was a small hill nearby the camp. It has been preserved until today as the cemetery of Soviet prisoners of war. Within its area, there is a monument of martyrdom of prisoners of war dedicated to all the prisoners of war who died in Lambsdorff in the years of the Second World War. In January 1945, the majority of prisoners of war were evacuated from Stalag 344 Lambsdorff. A few months later, mass graves of Soviet prisoners of war were discovered in Łambinowice. The end of the war did not close the tragic history of the place. In July 1945, in the vicinity of the former complex of German prisoners of war camps, the Polish administrative authorities installed a camp for German civilians designed to be displaced to Germany. The Central Museum of Prisoners of War in Łambinowice Opole collects historical items relating, among others, to the tragic history of Lambsdorff, Łambinowice. It runs scientific publishing and educational activity and organizes exhibitions. In this way, the museum reminds of the tragic past and wants to facilitate understanding of the causes and effects of hatred, contempt, and violence among people. All that is meant to develop tolerance and respect, as well as to build sound foundations of a better future.
Dziękujemy za żywą lekcję historii. Będziemy pamiętać.
Okay, thank you. The history in the living history, very important. It also has to be remembered that the history of Europe is not always the history of peaceful and joyful cooperation between the nations. It's sometimes very tragic and it influences lots of innocent people. The European heritage and heritage itself is about tangible and intangible assets. And here we come to the next European heritage label, which is Zdravljica, which gets us back to the history of the European Spring of Nations, which was very important for the history of Europe, as it was a moment where modern nation, culture and languages actually were developed. The next site is Workbond Estates in Europe, which goes back to the period between the wars. And this is these estates. They started as an architectural experiment, and it had a huge impact on the 20th century modernist architecture. And it was a place where architects were allowed to put their ideas into practice. The next one, the label, the place, the site that received the label is Lieu de Mémoire de Chambon-sur-Lignon, located in France, and it reminds of the story of the Holocaust, of the story of the Second World War, and how also the resistance was created and what resistance did. And the last site is the last label was awarded to the Three Brothers, which is connected with Latvia, and we have also the film. And this is the Three Brothers are the system of the symbol of the system of the heritage protection in Europe. So we also having a film, so can we see it now, please? Okay. Thank you. So, as you could see, European Heritage Label means lots of different places, lots of different ideas, lots of different histories. Some of them that we can be proud of, some of them that we cannot be proud of, but they have to be lessons for the future. The sites share common European values, and I think really Europe starts here. So thank you very much from my side for having opportunity to moderate today's conference. It was a pleasure, and I do wish you all successes in the future, and I do hope that the network will enlarge also with your activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that we can say thank you to everyone who joined us, our meeting online and on site. And unfortunately, it was a hybrid meeting, but we hope that next time, maybe next year, but earlier, we can meet all together here and personally. Thank you.
So, Anne, thank you very much. You were, as always, great, so thank you very much. And I'd like to thank you, Gerald, our lead partner. I'd like to thank you all our project partners participating in our event. I would like to thank you, panelists, viewers, Konrad, our interpreter, and of course our colleagues from Multimedia Factory. It means technical team. Thank you very much for this great work. I hope we will see soon in person, as Katarzyna said, just face to face. What I would like to add something more. I think Lublin is crying, is missing you too. Even heaven cries. You know, the rain started to rain before a moment. So, well, we are missing you. Yeah. Thank you very much for your presence, and see you at the soon. I hope so.
So at the end, we will be listening to the song for Europe, for unification of Europe, which was written by Zbigniew Preissner, who is a well-known musician, composer, and who comes from the movie, the movie Blue, also quite very well-known, I think, made by the Polish director Kieślowski. So once again, thank you very much, and hope to see you soon in person. Thank you. Okay.
capistevi, panda el pisi, panda ipomeni, I agapiu de pote pipti, I te de profitie catargi fisonde. I te glose bavsonde. I te gnosis catargi fisente. Nini demeni, pistis elpis agapi, tatri